Over his limbs in sleep pale cool waves of light had passed. He lay still, as if his soul lay amid cool waters, conscious of faint sweet music. His mind was awaking slowly to a tremulous, morning knowledge, a morning inspiration. A spirit filled him, pure as the purest water, sweet as dew, moving as music, but how faintly it was inbreathed, how patiently, as if the seraphim themselves were breathing upon him. His soul was waking, slowly fearing to awake wholly. It was the windless hour of dawn when madness wakes and strange plans open to the light and the mood flies forth silently. An enchantment of the heart. The night had been enchanted. In a dream or vision he had known the ecstasy of seraphic life. Was it an instant of enchantment only, or long hours and years and ages? The instant of inspiration seemed now to be reflected from all sides at once, from a multitude of cloudy circumstances of what had happened or of what might have happened. The instant flashed forth like a point of light, and now from cloud on cloud of vague circumstances. Confused form was wheeling softly its afterglow. In a virgin warmth of the imagination the word was made flash. Gabriel, the serf, had come to the virgin's chamber, and afterglow deepened within his spirits. Whence the white flame had passed, deepening to a rose and orange light. That rose and orange light was her strange, wilful heart, strange that no man had known or would know, wilful from before the beginning of the world, and lured by that ardent rose-like glow, the choirs of the seraphim were falling from the heaven. Are you not weary of ardent ways? Lure of the foreign seraphim, tell no more of enchanted days. The verses passes from his mind to his lips, and murmuring them over, he felt the rhythmic movement of the villainous pass through them. The rose-like glow sent forth its rays of flame. Vase, days, blaze, praise, raise. It raised, burned up the world, consumed the heart of men and angels. The rays from the nose, that was her wilful heart. Your eyes have set man's heart ablaze, and you have had your will of him. Are you not weary of ardent ways? And then the rhythm died away, ceased, began again to move and beat. And then smoke. Incense ascending from the altar of the world. Above the flame, the smoke of praise goes up from ocean, rim to rim. Tell no more of enchanted days. Smoke went up from the whole earth, from the vapory ocean. Smoke of her praise. The earth was like a swinging swain's censer, a ball of incense, an ellipsoidal ball. The rhythm died out at once. The cry of his heart was broken. His lips began to murmur the first verses over and over, then went on stumbling through half verses, stammering and baffled, then stopped. The hearth cry was broken. The wild windless hour had passed, and behind the panes of the naked window the morning light was gathering. A bell beat faintly, very far away. A bird twittered. Two birds. Three. The bell and the bird ceases, and the dull white light spread itself east and west, covering the world, covering the rose light in his heart. Fearing to lose all, he raised himself suddenly on his elbow to look for paper and pencil. There was neither on the table. Only the soup plate he had eaten the rice from for supper, and the candlestick with its tendrils of tallow and its paper sagged, singed by the last flame. He stretched his arm wearily towards the foot of the bed, groping with his hands and in the pockets of the coat that hung there. His fingers found a pencil and then a cigarette packet. He lay back and, tearing open the packet, placed the last cigarette on a window ledge and began to write out the stanzas of the villanelle in small neat letters on the rough cardboard surface. Having written them out, he lay back on the lumpy pillow, murmuring them again. The lumps of knocked flock under his head reminded him of the lumps of knocked horsehair in the sofa of her parlour on which he used to sit, smiling or serious, asking himself why he had come, displeased with her and with himself, confounded by the print of the sacred heart above the untainted sideboard. He saw her approach him in a lull of the talk and beg him to sing one of his curious songs. Then he saw himself sitting at the old piano, striking chords softly from its speckled case and singing. Amid the talk which had risen again in the room. To her who learned besides the mantelpiece a Danish song of the Elizabeths, a sad and sweet love to depart, the victory chant of Agincourt, the happy air of green sleeves, while he sang and she listened, or feigned to listen. His heart was at rest, but when the quiet old songs had ended and he heard again the voices in the room, he remembered his own sarcasm. The house where young men are called by their Christian name a little too soon. At a certain instant her eyes seemed about to trust him, but he had waited in vain. She passed now, dancing lightly across his memory as she had been that night at the carnival ball. Her white dress a little lifted, a white spray nodding in her hair. She danced lightly in a round. She was dancing towards him, and she came. Her eyes were a little averted, and a faint glow was on her cheek. At the pause in a chain of hands, her hands had lain in his an instant. A soft Merchandise. You are a great stranger now. Yes, I was born to be a monk. I'm afraid you are a heretic. Are you much afraid? For answer, she had danced away from him along the chain of hands, dancing lightly and discreetly, giving herself to none. The white spray nodded to her dancing, and when she was in shadow, the glow was deeper on her cheek. A monk. His own image started forth a profane of his cloister. A heretic Franciscan, willing and willing not to serve, spinning a little web of sophistry and whispering in her ear. No, it was not his image. It was like an image of a young priest in whose company he had seen her last, looking at him out of dull eyes, toying with the pages of her Irish phrase book. Yes, yes, the ladies are coming round to us. I can see it every day. The ladies are with us. The best helpers the language has. And the church, Father Moran. The church too. coming round too. The work is going ahead there too. Don't fret about the church. He had done well to leave the room in disdain. He had done well not to salute her on the steps of the library. He had done well to leave her to flirt with her price, to toy with a church which was the scullery maid of Christendom. Rude, brutal anger rooted the last lingering instant of ecstasy from his soul. It broke up violently her fair image and flung the fragments on all sides. On all sides, distorted reflection of her image started from his memory. The flower girl in a rage dress with damp coarse hair, and a hoyden's face who had called herself his own girl, and begged his hand so. The kitchen girl in the next house who sang over the clatter of her plates, with the drawl of the contrary singer. The first bars of by culinary lakes and fells. A girl who had laughed gaily to see him stumble, when the iron grating in the footpath near Corkhill had caught the broken sole of his shoe. A girl he had glanced at, attracted by her small ripe mouth as she passed out of Jacob's biscuit factory, who had cried to him over her shoulder, "Do you like what you've seen of me? Straight hair and curly eyebrows." And yet he felt that, however he might revile and mock her image, his anger was also a form of homage. He had left the classroom in disdain that was not wholly sincere, feeling that perhaps the secret of her race lay behind those dark eyes, open which her long lashes flung a quick shadow. He had told himself bitterly as he walked through the street that she was a figure of the womanhood of her country, a bat-like soul waking the consciousness of itself in darkness and secrecy and loneliness, trying a while, loveless and sinless, with her mild lover, and leaving him to whisper of innocent transgression in the laddiset ear of the price. His anger against her found vent in a coarse railing at her paramour, whose name and voice and future offended his baffled pride. A priced peasant, with a brother a policeman in Dublin and a brother a potboy in Moyclan. To him she would unveil her soul-shy nakedness. to one who was but schooled in the discharging of a formal right rather than to him. A price of the eternal imagination, transmuting the daily bread of experience into the radiant body of ever-living life. The radiant image of the Eucharist united again in an instant his bitter and despairing thoughts. Their cries rising unbroken in a hymn of thanksgiving, or broken cries and a mournful lays, rise in one Eucharistic hymn. Are you not weary of ardent ways? Why sacrificing hands upraise, the chalice flowing to her brim? Tell no more of enchanted days. He spoke the words aloud from the first lines till the music and rhythm suffused his mind, turning it to the quiet indulgence. Then copied them painfully to feel them the better by seeing them. Then lay back on his bolster. The full morning light had come. No sound was to be heard, but he knew that all around him life was about to awaken in common noises, hoarse voices, sleepy prayers. Shrinking from that life, he turned towards the wall, making a cowl of the blanket and starting at the great overblown scarlet flowers of the tattered wallpaper. He tried to warm his perishing joy in their scarlet glow, imagining a roseway from where he lay upwards to heaven, all strewn with scarlet flowers. Weary and weary, he too was weary of the ardent ways. A gradual warmth, a languorous weariness passed over him, descending along his spine from his closely cowled head. He felt it descend and sink himself as he lay. Smiled, soon he would sleep. He had written verses from her again after 10 years. 10 years before she had worn her shawl cowl-wise about her head, sending sprays of her warm breath into the night air, tapping her foot upon the glassy road. It was the last tram. The lank brown horses knew it, and shook their bells to the clear night in admonition. The conductor talked with the driver, both nodding often in the green light of the lamp. They stood on the steps of the tram, he on the upper, she on the lower. She came up to his step many times between their faces, and went down again, and once or twice remained beside him, forgetting to go down, and then went down. Let be, let be. 10 years from that wisdom of children to his folly. If he sent her the verses, they would be read out at the breakfast amid the tapping of eggshells. Folly indeed. Her brothers would laugh and try to wrest the page from each other with their strong hard fingers. The surprised. Her uncle, seated in his armchair, would hold the page at arm's length, read it smiling, and approve of the literary form. No, no, that was folly. Even if he sent her verses, she would not show them to others. No, she could not. He began to feel that he had wronged her. A sense of her innocence moved him almost to pity her. An innocence he had never understood till he had come to the knowledge of its true sin. An innocence which she too had not understood. While she was innocent, or before the strange humiliation of her nature had first come upon her, then first her soul had begun to live as his soul had when he had first sinned, and a tender compassion filled his heart. As he remembered her fair pallor and her eyes, humbled and saddened by the dark shame of womanhood, while his soul had passed from ecstasy to a languor, where had she been? Might it be in the mysterious ways of spiritual life that her soul at those same moments had been conscious of his homage? It might be. A glow of desire kindled again his soul, and fire unfulfilled all his body. Conscious of his desire, she was waking from odorous sleep. The temptress of his villanelle, her eyes dark and with a look of languor, were opening to his eyes. Her nakedness yielded to him. Radiant, warm odors and lavishly melt enfolded him like a shining cloud, enfolded him like water with a liquid life, and like a cloud of vapor, or like waters circumfluent in space. The liquid waters of speech, symbols, of the element of mystery, flowed forth over his brain.